Hello everybody, my name is Monty and this is Naga Gaming, and today we're at the start of a new series, and it's on OpenRCT2, where we will be going through the various RCT1 scenarios and playing them as if I was playing it in, say, like 1999 when the game came out, and decorate the whole area and make it all nice and pretty. So at the moment we're starting with Forced Frontiers, and this will be the first scenario of like all of them, so it might be a long series or it might be a short one. It just depends on how well it does, say, on YouTube, and how much you viewers want to watch and participate in something like such. So I started out by placing a couple rides, a couple or a catapult, I should say, and some shops and stalls, so we could get some residual guests coming in. Then I added a bathroom area, and I made sure that advertisements were already going, so we would be making all kinds of money and whatnot. So here I am just adding some drink stalls and various other things. Up next, we add a little height to the scenario, and we add a merry-go-round on the middle, so we can add path and make it all like a centerpiece, in other words. So we do just that. After some mild decorating, the next thing we work on is the first roller coaster of the scenario. We go into hyperspeed just a little bit to make some money, but we're going to start out with a wooden roller coaster. We're going to have path go under the station and make it all look nice and have the land raise up to the actual station, but leaving only the path under the station as it is. So we add some fencing and make it all look nice before we actually start building the roller coaster. So we go up, we turn around, go down, go back up, then we turn right, and we're essentially making a T shape out and back. Sort of like that, I guess. It isn't a common coaster layout type in the real world, but I figured there's a couple roller coasters in real life that have a T-shaped layout, such as Comet from Hershey Park. I think that's the name of the roller coaster, and that's exactly what we did. We made a T-shape, and that has allowed us to have a wooden roller coaster. It's not something super fancy, but it will allow us to attract more guests and make some good profit later. Next, we build a very, very small, like, kiddie coaster, caterpillar type roller coaster type thing. I know I'm saying type a lot, but how do you describe this? I literally called it caterpillar, and it does 2 laps. This is also another roller coaster that I had the path from the station go under the station, if that makes sense. I also raised the land to make it all nice looking, and recolored some of the land texture to make it look more vibrant. Also, by this time we had well and truly completed our goal, so the goal was kind of irrelevant at this point. And at this point we're layering a bunch of shrubs and bushes alongside the entrance path to make everything look nice and neat and orderly, as well as putting fences around the centerpiece where the merry-go-round is. Next, we're going to add a haunted house, but first we're going to lower some of the land and recolor it. I guess I was going for a sort of hidden in the valley-esque look for it, so we simply do that, and then we're going to add a spiral slide in a moment. But first, we're making sure everything looks neat and orderly. So we add a bunch of hedges, make the land nice and neat, and we just keep going around until that is complete. Now, it's time for the slide. We simply place it in the back left corner of the park, and now we have a spiral slide. Up next, we are going to build a tracked ride in the form of a car ride, and simply we're just going to go like back and forth and go under a roller coaster and then wind back to the station. And that is the car ride complete. We add a connecting path from the station of the Woody to the centerpiece, and then we decide to jam pack a pirate ship in between the station of the roller coaster and a station track piece. And then we spend a good deal of time just decorating, putting all kinds of various trees and flowers and making sure that all of our ads are running as they should. Once that was all done, we start adding fences around everything just to make it look all nice and uniform, so guests can't, say, go onto the roller coaster and get yeeted out of existence or the car ride. Next up, we have a looping coaster that we put the station right next to where the Woody is, and we're gonna sort of like weave it around, in and above and under and around the wooden coaster. Now for this, I wanted to have interlocking loops, and it took me quite a while to get it to look right and also work properly. So I had to use some like mild cheats just to see what the clearances were on it, but eventually I figured it out. Here we are about 3 or 4 minutes later, still just trying to get it to interlock, and we finally do it. So with that, we kind of like go under the Woody coaster, or the wooden coaster, and add some brakes and lead it back. And that completes the looping coaster, which I named Anaconda. And also, I managed to like reorient some of the end of that roller coaster so we could get it to all connect up without having too many clearance issues. So next I add a path underground, and then it pops above ground, so the guests who exit the roller coaster can escape or leave. But then I decided to add another connecting path which leads directly to the original roller coaster exit anyway. And then over here is where I decided to put the observation tower, which was named Sky Viewer. So now it's all connected. Some light modifying the path and whatnot later, we decorate everything up by adding fences and trees and whatnot, and we eventually add some more shops and stalls around this area so the guests don't have to really worry about that. From the other side of the connecting point, we decide to go and create a path that leads out into open space, and we're going to add a log flume here. I'm starting the log flume with kind of a drop, but then we go back up, we kind of snake around, and then we eventually get it back to the station after terraforming a little bit so it can go under the station of the log flume. It can turn around and go back. Go up again, kind of turn around, and there we have it. That's the log flume complete. A Ferris wheel later, I decided to go for somewhat of a mine theme, even though this scenario does not have any extra theming sets. So I just kind of went with what I got. So I used land or like land tiles and land wall surfaces for my favor, because I can use, say, like a brick wall texture and make it look like it's actually scenery pieces, even though it's actually land. So adding trees all around the place and bushes make it look pretty mine-ish themed, considering we don't have a mine theme at all. Mine theming. We add a little bit of muddy grass to make it look like it doesn't have a horrible transition from the nicest grass to the muddiest mud. Here we are adding more and more lined bushes, because apparently that's an aesthetic, and it looks good. Over in the right corner, we start on a suspended swinging coaster, which I have named El Dorado. And this coaster took an absolute long amount of time just to try and figure out how to weave it back and forth into the mining area and out of the mining area and over and under everything. So it took so long just to figure that out that I would say about 20 odd minutes went by with me just trying to finagle the suspended swinging coaster into a layout that is kind of realistic, but maybe not as much as I had hoped. So we finally figured that out. So we add another lift hill and some brakes and whatnot so we can have more trains. Then a steep drop, and then we get to a point where I am just trying to figure out how do I get back to the station with how cramped and crowded everything is. And believe you me, it took a long time. It was at this moment that I realized I had screwed up, because the train from the second lift hill didn't make it all the way, so I had to go back once again and edit the layout so it would work. And once again, it took a while, but I eventually figured it out. It's just kind of a game of messing around and seeing where you can squeeze something in. Otherwise, if I had just given up, we would not have had a suspended swinging coaster. See, I even tried to weave over the woody and under the looping coaster, and that just was not gonna work. But eventually, I figured it out. I kind of had to go over the looping coaster. And once that had happened, it was all fine and dandy. It's tree time. It's no longer tree time. It's bush time. Gonna add all kinds of bushes around the area and some more scenery, such as statues and shrubs that are decorated, squirrel shrubs, and various other things. So at this point, the whole area is pretty jam-packed. So I decided, because I have $80,000, I'm gonna buy all the land and have another extension. So I started with the dodgems, but then I decided, let's make it all sand and go for a sandy sort of Egyptian theme. So after finagling the dodgems for a little bit, I decided to raise the land in the back corner and make it sort of like a centerpiece for the dodgems. Once I did that, it was a matter of just connecting on the path and making it look nice. So we squeezed between the original bathrooms and the drink stalls and all the food and whatnot, and make sure it all looks nice and sandy. At this moment, I decided I was going to add a spinning coaster. So this one was pretty easy to make. It was just kind of going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until I had enough space to like go up and down and then kind of continue to like level around the area so that it can eventually weave down and get back to the station. So here we're just going to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and then we eventually turn around and go back to the station, thus completing the spinning coaster, which I think I named Spinning Sphinx. Yeah, I think that's what I named it. At this point, I add a maze. And I tried to, like, follow Marcel's advice by having one clear connecting path before I start adding everything else, so the guests won't have the most horrible time trying to get to the exit. And simply all it takes now is just filling it all in, with plenty of dips and turns where the guests can get lost, but it's a pretty easy finish to this maze, which I have called the Egyptian Catacomb. About halfway through year 3, we finally have gotten a roller coaster I would like to build, and it was the Standup coaster, which was honestly pretty fun to build with, because I mean, it's not too difficult to build it. You just have to be careful about lateral G's and various other things, because the intensity on this roller coaster can get very high. So you just gotta be kind of careful. Then I add 2 corkscrews, kind of go down, and weave back to the station. And there we go. We have got a stand-up coaster. I make sure to add a block brakes section to it so we can have 2 trains. One of the things I like about the stand-up coaster is the trains are very compact, so you can have, or like the cars on the train is very compact, so you can have multiple trains in a station, even if you have like 4 or 5 station tile pieces. That's really nice. Recoloring the Phoenix, adding some nice red and yellow and orange, and I think even some dark red or maroon to highlight the inversions. And I think that is a really cool looking aesthetic. So at this moment, I've decided to add like a station building for Phoenix. And that was very simple to make. After that, I just add some like path props and path areas so you have shelter. It's raining again, but I've decided to add a space rings in the helix of the final turn of Phoenix. And it will be Pharaoh's Passion. I don't understand my naming scheme for that, but you know, sometimes it's fun to have weird names. And over in the corner, I decided I am not gonna fill out the entire park because I just feel like we don't have enough rides to do that. So I decided to add a fence and a couple signs that say coming soon or coming soonish. Believe it or not, I did find one little section that I hadn't done, so I was deciding if I wanted to build another roller coaster or like a thrill ride or a monorail or something, but eventually I decided I was going to build another wooden coaster and just like jam it in the corner. And so that's exactly what I did. The Screamer. Add some path right there, make it all connect, have it connect to the entrance, and now we have the beginnings of a pretty small Woody that we're going to weave under Woodies, under looping coasters, under the log flume, and under, yes, under the suspended swinging coaster. And it took kind of a while to figure out how I was going to do that, because I was running into the issue that the outskirts of the left side of the park from start just doesn't have enough space, and you can't buy land over there. So if you run out of space over there, you're just kind of stuck. That's all you can do. So eventually, I figured it out. Another coaster and a second Woody. Have it test and add some very simple roofing to it, and we'll be done with this scenario. Finally working on the very finale. And at this moment, I just decide to add spam bushes all over the place and a couple other trees just to fill it in various places. And once I was done with that, I was satisfied with the scenario, and that would be the end. Hey y'all, thank you so much for watching. Send me a like or a sub if you enjoyed this content. You can also find me on Discord at Norcus Empire, and there's a link there, and TikTok at Monty Creates. I really hope you enjoyed this content, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.